The day is Friday, May 31st, 1889. 2,208 people have just died from the largest loss of civilian life in the United States at the time, caused by the Johnstown Flood of 1889. This was more than just a flood, and its impact changed American law forever. 14 miles up the rivers from Johnstown, Pennsylvania, South Fork Dam, an already structurally weakened dam made of dirt, rock, and clay that had been owned by the South Fork Hunting and Fishing Club for the previous 10 years. Among the club's membership were many of the nation's wealthiest and most powerful businessmen of the era, including Andrew Carnegie of U.S. Steel Corporation and Andrew Mellon, who would later become Secretary of the Treasury during the Roaring Twenties. The lake behind South Fork Dam was used as a private retreat for the extremely wealthy members of the club for their boating and fishing activities. Seeking to extract further value from the lake, including preventing the escape of their expensive fish, the club had made numerous modifications to the dam that lowered the dam by several feet and blocked the very emergency spillway that was designed to provide a controlled path for floodwaters to flow. At 2:50 p.m. on the day, more than a decade of short-sighted and dangerous modifications to the dam, combined with an enormous amount of floodwaters from recent rains, resulted in the total collapse of the dam, sending tens of millions of gallons of water downstream. A 60-foot wave of water moving at 40 miles per hour, this flood destroyed everything in its path and ultimately claimed more than 2,200 lives. Despite the enormous loss of life caused by these negligent modifications to the dam made by the South Fork Club, the wealthy industrialists refused to take any responsibility for the dam's failure, blaming it all on an act of God when the club was sued by angry Johnstown residents who correctly noted that the dam had been extensively modified from its original 1851 design. Unfortunately for those who sought compensation, the rich and powerful won, and no legal recourse was ever provided. However, American law would change forever from this incident. Fueled by widespread public discontent with the lack of legal accountability the wealthy club members ultimately faced, one of the most influential law journals in the country at the time, the American Law Review, would call for the adoption of a British legal principle that states a person who makes unnatural changes to their land can be held responsible for damage or harm caused to another person as a result of that change. This legal standard dates back to 1868. However, it was almost universally ignored by American state courts until the Johnstown Flood. In the 10 to 15 years immediately following the flood, more than 15 states adopted this principle in their court systems, including states that were among the most vocally opposed to it. By the middle of the 20th century, this one flood had led to the adoption of the broader legal principle of strict liability, which is similar but extends to a far greater set of situations than just the use of privately owned land. Now, as it should be, if an action a person takes leads to harm to someone else or their property, and that harm could have been prevented by the original person, they are still responsible for that harm regardless of whether they outright intended for any harm to occur. This is the story of how a flood that killed 2,200 people and the lack of legal recourse afterward for the victims changed American law forever. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and be sure to share this video with friends and family.